Hi, I'm Kris Westwood, and this is the next in my series of cyclocross instructional videos. Today we're going to be talking about riding in this stuff, sand. Sand riding isn't something you're typically going to need to do more than 2 or 3 times a year, unless of course you live on the North Sea coast of Belgium or somewhere like that. But it does take some special skills, and a few basic techniques are going to help make it a lot easier for you. First off, you have to understand the different kinds of sand that you're going to encounter in races. These all have slightly different characteristics, but in general, a slightly coarser sand that's wetter and more compacted is going to be a lot easier to ride on. In fact, if you ride right along the water's edge on a beach, you'll notice the sand is almost as hard as concrete. Cyclocross courses can incorporate sand in many different ways, but the most common you'll see is a simple straight ride through a short section of sand like a beach volleyball court or something like that. In this case, the technique is pretty straightforward. You want to carry as much speed as possible into the sand. You want to get your weight back so that the sudden deceleration from the sand doesn't throw you over the handlebars. You want to get into a lower gear early, and you want to power through, keeping your weight back and pulling up on the handlebars so you get a bit of flotation from your front wheel. Now, the thing that novice riders have the most trouble with is that the bike's going to want to move around from side to side. It's going to get all squirrely. Now, you should just let the bike move. Keep a loose grip on the handlebars and let the wheels follow the path that they want to. If you try to fight the steering too much, your front wheel's just going to dig in and you'll bog down. Now, things do get a little bit more complicated if you have to do any turning in the sand. And this is where you want to seek out the firmest patches of sand possible where you can do your turning and then try to ride in as straight a line as possible between them. But oftentimes you'll find is that simply getting off the bike and running around the corner is the fastest way around the course and the most consistent. You're not going to be fighting the bike and losing all the energy trying to carry your speed out of the corner. Now, in a race, there's a couple things to keep in mind. First off is that ruts are going to form very quickly in the sand. If you can stay in the ruts, it's going to be the fastest way through that section of the course because the sand is more compacted underneath you. But because the ruts are so narrow, it can often be difficult to follow them. Secondly, when you're riding in a group or especially on the first lap, it can be really hard to hit those ruts. So during your warm-up, you're going to really want to make sure that you explore some alternate lines and just see how soft the sand is everywhere. The other thing to keep in mind is that when you hit the sand, you're going to decelerate quite quickly. Now, that means that if you're following somebody too closely, they're going to slow down and you might just run to the back of them or have to jump on the brakes, which is no good. So you should let a gap open up of a couple meters before you go into the sand section so that you ride through the section, you're actually closing on them. You might even be able to carry more speed than the other rider as you exit the sandy section. As for equipment, the most important thing to remember is use bigger tires and nice low pressure in the sand. It'll give you a bit more flotation and help carry you through. And finally, a word of caution. Sand is extremely abrasive. You want to avoid getting it on your chain and your chainring. It's going to chew them up. It'll just wear them out really fast. So you want to make sure that you have as little oil as possible on your chain so that sand won't stick to it. And after riding in the sand, you want to make sure you clean your bike as thoroughly as possible. Use a degreaser on your chain and make sure you get the sand out of there. So get out there, have fun, and for the Cyclery.ca, I'm Kris Westwood.
1,000 times a day, I'm in another place. No matter what you say to me afterwards, say 1,000 times a day.